the number of times I've cried in a collegiate weight room. I like think about it. I'm like, was I having a good time? I was crying
Is this fun?
a lot.
This is fun, right?
I was crying a lot. You know, the athletes coming. I'm like, coach is fine. They're crying. I'm crying. Whatever. So.
My name is Tim Riley, host of Coachemup podcast, and I'm excited to announce the inaugural Coachemup conference in Austin, Texas, June 13th and 14th at the iconic Nutrabolt and C4 headquarters. We've got speakers like Jake Tora, Daniel Bach, Kelly Matthews, Alyssa Olenek, Corey Schlesinger, Vernon Griffith, Ryan Fisher, myself, Anna Craig, Zach Zillner, the list goes on. We're gonna redefine what a conference is with hands-on practicals, presentations, food, drinks, and even a musical performance by Zach Tellender. Here's the deal, attendance is capped and these tickets are going to sell fast. Click the link below and join us in Austin, Texas, June 13th and 14th with some of the brightest minds in sports performance and fitness. We'll see you there. Welcome to Coach Me Up. I'm Tim Riley, and I'm not going to waste any time today. I'm just going to get right to it.
Love it.
I'm here with Jessica Burke.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting stuff.
You know what wasn't exciting? Mm-hmm. Our shared traffic trauma.
Mm-hmm. Our separate but cohesive experience.
100%. We are bonded for life now.
I know. It was terrible. Just texting back and forth. I'm late. I'm fucking late. I'm also fucking late. I'm later than I thought I was going to be.
There's a phenomenon that happens in Austin, Texas, where, and I'm sure it's like, you know, I've moved around, you know, typically it rains. It's like, all right, traffic's going to get worse.
Maybe like San Diego too. California.
Is it like that there?
Yeah, they get pretty.
Oh, because it never rains.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I see. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
But nobody was moving.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the way.
For no reason.
But nobody was taking the initiative.
No initiative. A lot of non-initiative takers.
Not a lot of movers and shakers.
Not out here. At least not on Mopac. Yeah.
Yeah. Weather was bad.
So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the trip. So, you know, I've been following you and sort of like, you know, keeping up with your Instagram and socials and stuff. And I've watched you. Where did I see you first? Maybe you were on Strength Coach Network is
Probably.
What it was.
Yeah.
I think I saw a clip.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember the context of what you were talking about.
Stupid. I'm always talking about. He puts the stupid. I mean, I love him. He puts this like.
It's like your least favorite clips.
Well, I mean, it's fine because I'm stupid in general. Like if you take the aggregate of like what I'm saying, it's gonna be dumb. But I just whenever I get tagged in a post from him, it's like, oh, requesting a collaborative post. I'm like, damn it, Justin.
Fuck.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's great, but I'm always saying something stupid.
Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. You're also on the right podcast.
Amazing.
Yeah. You're right home. So I know who you are. Maybe not everyone listening or watching does. So for the people who don't, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in coaching and where you're at now. Yeah.
So, I mean, brief rundown. I went to school for something completely different. My undergrad is in economics and statistics. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I graduated. And I was just like, there's no way I can do this, and not want to jump off, you know, anything. Like it was just, the thought of sitting behind a desk was so intimidating. And so I was just not looking forward to it. And athletics had always been a big part of my life. But I didn't have any context for the space. Like I didn't know there were strength and conditioning coaches, you know, because especially as a female, like we weren't really exposed to that.
What were your sports growing up?
Lacrosse. I played soccer when I was really, really young, and then I played lacrosse.
Nice.
And, you know, I wasn't really exposed to that. And so the more I started to get into kind of like taking my fitness into my own hands, like after athletics, the more I dove into the industry. And then I kind of ended up at this, you know, really random private sector internship where I was doing a little bit of, you know, admin work and like kind of the business side. And then I was doing a little bit of the coaching side, and I started coaching and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a job. Like, no way. And that was the first time I had ever like been excited about anything and the concept of, you know, doing anything professionally. And for those who know me, whenever I like kind of get into something, like I am 159% in. Like took a full-time job with that company that I was interning with right out of college. Everybody was like, what are you doing? Because I was about to make like $12 an hour, you know? And I was like, no to the $90,000 offer.
Right. Quarter life crisis. Yeah.
Not even, 22 years old. I was literally just like, I'm going to burn it down. Haven't even built it yet.
Hell yeah, dude.
So, did that, right? And then I just got so into it and I was like, I need to go to grad school. I don't have a background to go to grad school. I need to get as many certifications as I can. So I just started like checking them off the list, right? Getting my CPT, my CSCS, my PS, like all of that. Then I applied to a bunch of grad schools. Michigan must have been, I don't know how late it was when they were going over my application, but they were like, get on over here.
Michigan's a really good school.
Their kinesiology program is incredible.
Holy shit.
Well, the funny thing was too, Kentucky was like, no. And I was like, that's fair. And then Michigan was like, yeah. And I was like,
I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay though. We're not
whatever.
Good job.
Yeah, shout out Michigan.
Shout out Michigan.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Shout out the intern that okayed that. Yeah.
So here I am, first day, master's in kinesiology, never having had a college level human anatomy course, right? I'm like, let's do it. So that had to go all in on that, right? That was a lot of work because I'm around all these people that have been in these lab settings for the last 4 years. And I'm like, what's a femur? Like, can somebody tell me?
Oh God, yes.
So it was like,
Are you training though? Are you doing the $12 an hour job still simultaneously, or did you have to leave that to go?
I had to leave that, right? I was in DC for a little bit. I did that. I actually quit that because the guy told me I could never be a coach. Okay, so I know, but I hope he's
suck on that, dude.
Hope he's watching. He's not. And then I did some big box gym things. So there was probably like a 3-year period between graduation and then, getting into grad school. And then so I went to Michigan, did my first semester. I was like coaching high school lacrosse. I was going between like Ann Arbor and Cincinnati. It was just crazy. I don't know. I blacked out, whatever. Right. So then, I interned at Michigan with strength and conditioning, which was like my first real experience in Collegiate. And I was like, this is crazy. I love it. Right.
Yeah.
Did that, graduated, COVID happened, went back to the private sector because I graduated literally December 2019. And then got a job at Purdue, did that, for a little under a year, got a job at Penn State, was there for a little over a year. And then really just kind of had, I guess, quarter life crisis at that point. And I was like, does this align with the way that I want to live my life, right? There was no doubt that I loved what I was doing. But it got to a point where I was like, this is not it's not aligning with, me seeing my friends, me seeing my family, me traveling, me, building anything for myself professionally. Yeah. And I would look at people that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. And I'm like, I don't want to be in state college when I'm 65 making $53,000 a year, you know? And so that's kind of what really pushed me.
I do it because I love it. They're crying. They're coffee. Yeah.
The number of times I've cried in a collegiate weight room, I think about it. I'm like, was I having a good time? I was crying
is this fun?
A lot.
This is fun, right?
I was crying a lot. The athletes coming, I'm like, Coach is fine. Jess is fine. They're crying. I'm crying, whatever. So it was a mess. And then so that kind of drove me to, take this kind of exploratory leap of I want to be in this industry. I want to do something similar to what I'm doing now, but I want it to look how I want it to look. And that doesn't exist within the realm of collegiate. And so figuring out what that is, building that, and that's a continuous process. And I don't see that ending anytime soon, but I'm definitely in a much better place than I was, 2 years ago. So
what is that? So what is that place now exactly? What have you arrived at currently?
I think number one, having enough money to eat.
That's tight.
It's a luxury.
That is
I'm
really
living
something
a luxury.
special.
I get guac on the Chipotle bowl.
Wow.
And everything. Yeah.
Incredible.
I wish that was a joke.
I know.
I wish, oh my God, it's not. No, just a little bit of financial freedom.
Yeah.
Right. And a little bit of freedom within the way that I coach and I train. I mean, strength and conditioning is a great profession, but, you're working but for sport coaches who don't know what you do, who don't, in some cases, appreciate what you do, respect what you do.
For sure.
And so, not all cases, because I've had like incredible, sport coaches that I've worked with, but just kind of, getting out of this environment where I felt like I was not as appreciated. And now it's like my coaching is on my terms. I coach in the style that I want to coach in. And my clients appreciate that and they resonate with that. And then on the flip side of that, that means that the business that I've created, accepts that. Like they want to work with me because I coach the way I coach and because I am the way I am, you know what I mean? And not in spite of it. So, that's kind of what it looks like. And then just being able to like see my friends, like I was the worst friend for probably like 6 years. Like I missed every wedding shower, baby shower, bachelorette party, not only because I couldn't take time off, but because $500 would have put me like,
It's like, I cannot take that girl's trip to Vegas.
I'm like,
can't do it.
That's a month's pay.
Right.
Can't do it.
Not happening.
Not happening.
Sorry. Yeah.
So, it looks like a lot more freedom within my life, but then also within my practice, my coaching practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that you have the unique perspective of having spent time and what, like, it feels like the fitness profession, we have like performance coaching, fitness is like this overarching umbrella. And then like within the context of that, we have like, the collegiate setting and then private sector. Mm-hmm. I feel like those are pretty common, lines in the sand. So, and by the way, for everyone listening, watching, all these questions that I ask people, they don't get these questions beforehand. These are everyone is on the spot for every single question. So to put you on the spot, in the collegiate side of things, in your mind, what are the pros and cons? Mm-hmm. And let's start there, and then we'll make our way over to the private sector, and we're going to tease this out. So what, in your experience, what were the things that were like, these are awesome, this is why I wanted to do it, this is what I took from it, and then black and white, like what are the things you absolutely were like just non-starter for you?
Yeah. So pros, I mean, it is the way the industry is constructed right now, it is the pinnacle of strength and conditioning, right? In terms of, I've worked with some of the brightest coaches.
Yep.
The level of athletes, even though I call them kids because they really are kids, they come to you at 17, 18 years old. The level of athleticism, especially being in a Power 5 setting, is insane, right? Yeah. It's the kind of thing that you appreciate when, you did what I did and you work with high schoolers where I'm like, you literally are on the team,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's
good for you.
Wild, like, right, yes. Can you, and then you get, it's not mean, but it
is what it is.
Definitely it's so different when you're like working with middle schoolers or high schoolers and you're like, you have no idea how to move your body. And then you get to this level where everyone's a professional. I mean, like now, legally speaking, they are, but everyone's a professional athlete. And so you are given every tool from, the perspective of, mentorship or, through coworkers or whatever, and the athleticism of the kids that you work with to have such an incredible learning experience and to really experiencing coaching at its highest level. Right. And so that would be my pro, along with the fact that like, had I not done it, there would always be a what if. Yeah. Right. I had to check the box. And I talk about that with I have a lot of young coaches that come to me that are like, I'm getting my CSCS, I'm getting my kines degree, and I'm going to be a collegiate strength coach. And I'm like, great, I think you should do that. But I think you should also prepare that you might not want to do that.
Yeah.
But I had to do it. So pro. And then the environment is like something you don't get anywhere else. Like I think about being in a weight room at 6 a.m. with fucking Lil Baby playing.
Yeah,
even
NBA
though I
young
hate all
boy.
this stupid shit. I know all the words. I hate it now. And there is against my will. I know every word to every, hip hop and rap song from the last 15 years. But there's something, it's 6:30 in the morning. It's dark outside. It's cold outside. You're there. The guys are yelling, you're amped up. People are just lifting heavy shit. It's an environment like nothing else.
Yeah.
Right. Pros. Yay.
Yeah.
Cons. It is the model, the way it's set up now, the sport coach is the CEO of the team in a lot of cases. And for me, that was really hard because I kept running into this wall of, what's best for the athlete, what's best for the team, what do I know to be true within strength and conditioning, and then a coach wanting to only take 10% of what I said and implement it, and then blame me for 100% of the shortcomings of the team. You know what I mean? And that's a situation that I faced, thankfully, only one time. I had a lot of really great sport coaches, but it got to that point where it's and I could see it with the other coaches that I worked with.
Yeah.
And it's it's not only you, it's the coaches not trusting the athletic training staff and undermining them and doing stuff behind their backs, and then the nutrition staff. And it's really hard to work as a cohesive performance unit when there's no buy-in to what you do.
Right.
And then on top of that, the fact that anyone who's done collegiate has worked for free, right?
Yep.
40, 50, 60 hours a week. And then when you get the job, you could be an assistant director and make $48,000 a year.
Right.
And unless you're, married and living in a small college town, and outside of the college town, of course, because housing in college towns is expensive, you can't live comfortably. It's not a realistic life. And then on top of that, your life revolves around the season of your sports. And even though, at the last school I was at, I had 4 teams, but they were all kind of staggered. So it's there's just never a good time.
It never fucking ends.
There's never a good time. And then I want to go. And then, somebody's like, you're going to leave the week before men's off-season golf regionals. You know what I mean? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was happening. But you know what I mean? It's just, there's never a break. It never stops.
It does feel like the unspoken, how baseball has unspoken rules?
Yeah.
It feels like some of the unspoken rules, and again, total outsider.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
But the unspoken rules are you're going to give everything, or else you've given nothing.
Completely.
You're going to show up and you're going to do the thing, and you're going to do it with a smile on your face, and you're going to be on 100% of the time, and you're going to give the best version of yourself. And if opportunity arises where you have a chance to overextend yourself, that's kind of the expectation. And it's well, that's what everyone's doing here.
Correct.
So that's
Are you on the team?
Are you? Yeah.
You give one tiny shit about the team.
Exactly.
Well, and then it's I'm you see me, I'm in this, I've never not been in this office. When have you ever walked by, this office and I haven't been here? What do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
Do you think I want to be here? There's no windows in here. I'm dying. I haven't seen the sun in 9 days. I cried early. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. You're exactly right. The expectation is overextension. And I was actually talking about this with a coach yesterday. It's just the expectation of a full day of work and what it means to be committed has shifted so much because the supply of coaches, now that people realize this is a field, they realize it's fun, they realize it's something they can get into, is so large, and strength and conditioning is held in such high regard that people don't care that they're being emotionally abused and making zero money. They're like, oh my God, I made it. I got free gear.
Right.
And so it's still attracting people at that level, and there's nothing's going to happen until people start pulling back and they're like, I can't do this. We need to hire more coaches. We need to pay our staff more. And so the time commitment for sure would be the biggest con, and just the lack of, you get fulfillment from the kids. Me interacting with the kids was my favorite part, and if it was just the fucking kids.
Yep. Amazing.
I'd still be there
working
for $48,000 a year.
Yep.
But the rest of you guys are ruining it for all of us.
Yeah. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Like
fuck
the kids
you.
are great, but you got to stop, So, but you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yeah, I totally do.
It's definitely systemic. And then, shifting towards private sector.
Yeah.
I mean, cons are, especially when you've been in a collegiate environment, like you miss it, and not in a way where you're like, oh, that was fun. Like there's
something special to going through that with a group of people. And
I was in a fucking crisis. And I don't say this lightly. The first year that I was out of collegiate, I could not watch sports. I was crying all the time. I was like, what have I done with my life? I worked so hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I went all in. I
sacrificed a lot.
I went to fucking Michigan.
You literally did. You did it.
Sometimes I think about that and I'm like, okay. So, I did all that with this in mind. And then it's like mourning that experience, but also mourning because in my head, I was like, fuck these people. I'm going to be a director in 5 years. That's what I'm going to do.
Sure.
I'm going to work in Power 5. I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to coach. I'm going to play the game. Turns out I'm not good at playing the game because I have an attitude.
Yeah. I get that.
And
relatable.
I just have an attitude. And I care about the kids,
Yep.
sue me. And so I was pissed, right? All the time. And I take ownership of that, but also a lot of it was justified. And so looking at the private sector, cons are there was a huge hole, for me, especially starting in private sector, because I had to accept the fact that I was never going to feel that exact way again, right? Could I feel something similar to the magnitude of working in private sector? Sure, maybe, I don't know. Or collegiate.
Yeah.
But I was never going to feel that exact way again. And that was a hard pill to swallow. And so for me, the lack of that environment, the lack of that level of impact is the biggest con of being in the private sector. But the pro is I can make as much money as I want.
Yeah.
I can do what I want,
Make your own schedule.
I make my own schedule.
Yep.
I hang out with my dog. I eat croissants in the middle of the day. I don't have sport coaches coming by screaming at me in my face.
Yeah. When's the last time you've cried in a weight room?
Literally Penn State, April
19th, 3:30 p.m. Yeah.
Truly. So yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's that you have to figure out what exactly you want, and
I love that we're having this conversation, and I appreciate your ability to add some depth and weight to both sides of the fence, because what I've noticed is oftentimes, the grass is always greener.
Correct.
And so many people in private I have conversations with want to get into the collegiate setting or a pro setting, or, the sort of the machine is what I'll refer to it as. And then on the other hand, I talk to so many, got a strength coach podcast. I talk to a lot of coaches who peer over the other side of the fence in the private sector and say, God, that looks freaking sweet. But making that transition one way or the other, there's a fucking lot that goes, and you touched on that too, going through a literal mourning process of everything that you worked into.
Crazy.
And then nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Just because you make the switch, you're starting not completely at ground zero, because you have your lived experience of what you've done on either side, but you're still a new fish in a really big pond.
Yeah.
So you make this switch. What were some of the immediate things you were confronted with? I mean, you talked about feeling like I've made a big mistake.
Yeah.
Right? But where do you even start, Jess?
Truly.
Because that's what keeps people peering over the fence. They're like, I don't even know what the fuck do I do? Where do I go? Where do I work? How do I?
Yeah, I think, so I will say this. I, as kind of all in and, brash as I can be about some things, I'm calculated, and I take risks, but I take calculated risks, right? So a lot of people look at my business now and they're like, oh, that's awesome. How'd you do that? And it's like, you if you've been here, you know I've been posting on Instagram since 2015. You know what I mean? And I don't even have 100,000, 200,000. You know what I mean? I've been cultivating.
Wait, so you're saying it doesn't happen overnight, Jessica?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. Unfortunately, it does not.
I don't know. Have you tried slamming your face into a bowl of water? Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. Correct. Yes, I've seen it.
What's his name? Alfonso Hall?
I don't know his name.
Yeah.
I didn't get that far.
I have a true story. I'm going to railroad everything you're saying. I'm so sorry.
No, do it.
I had a little break today before the podcast. I ran home to eat some food.
Okay. Did you put your face in a bowl of ice water?
I shit you not. A box of that water.
Oh, I saw your Instagram story.
What the actual fuck?
Because
Kelly and I didn't order it. I don't know how it got there. What's the name of the water? Hold on. Saratoga water. And now I'm getting a free ad time. You know what I mean? How did that get on my doorstep?
You know
Who put it there?
They're like, Kelly,
right?
I know
exactly
maybe you could. And so I hope Kelly's like, I'm not putting my face in this stupid.
Like, how did they get our address? You know what I mean? Brilliant marketing. Okay, you were saying. I'm sorry. It's taken.
That wasn't an ad.
Right. Yeah.
We don't agree with that type of style of marketing. We're not promoting that.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. I don't even know what planet I'm on. It doesn't happen overnight. Yeah.
Right. So you've been posting since 2015.
Correct. Yeah. And so I think my thought process has always been that I wanted to have something else. I've wanted to have something that is mine, right? Because there's not a ton of, security in collegiate, and especially when you get higher level in your basketball and your football, people get fired, you get fired. People 100%. Lose, you're done. So, I always wanted to have something that was mine. And then I think people can be multi-passionate, and something I'm passionate about. The biggest piece of coaching that I love is like the education piece. So I know a lot of my content is just like stupid and jokey and stuff like that, but there's a lot of my content that serves to educate people. And, so that was something that I felt kind of kept me sane while I was operating through Collegiate a little bit, is like connecting with people on the outside, because you really do feel pretty isolated. And so I think for me, where I started was, I have just always been kind of a connector, and I've always known people. And like, the more you talk about what you do, and the more, even when I was not in great shape, just starting out with this, like, I was like, I'm a fucking trainer. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I would as soon as I got certified, I was like, I'm a fucking trainer.
I do it.
And the more, like, if people see that over and over again for 8 years, they're like, we get it, Jess, you're a fucking trainer. Yeah. Got it. So, but then I have people that will message me and they're like, I followed you since 2015 and like, I love your stuff and I've just never been in a place to do it, but like, now I want to work with you. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it's just like, or I have people that I recognize their user handles from when I literally had like 300 followers, and they would just be commenting. They'd be like, get after it, Jay Burke.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And they're still there and they're like, fire emoji. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck yeah. But it's like...
That's awesome.
But you know what I mean? Because like,
I do know what you mean.
You did the same kind of grind too. You know what I mean? Like, you've been posting. So you know those people that were there when you had like 2,500 followers. And
Hell
you're like, fuck yeah, Tim. I like preach what you preach. Like, you're doing it. And you're like, yeah, big dog.
Yeah, appreciate you, dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right?
Appreciate you, fam.
Like,
pray hands.
You know those guys.
Yeah, hell fuck yeah, I do.
You would recognize that username out of a lineup, right?
Yes, I would.
So it's just like, I have been just acting in... I like to call it now retrospectively, and also going forward, just like acting in delusion since day one. I was like, I'm going to build something that is mine.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a coach. I don't care if I'm a shitty one, because I was at one point. We all were.
Yep.
I don't care if I'm a shitty one. I don't care if I don't know anything. I don't care if I don't have abs. I don't care if I don't look the part. Like, I'm a coach. Right. And I've just put that out there so much that at this point, people are just like, oh, Jessica Burke, she's that annoying coach girl that hates men on Instagram. And I'm like, that could be me. That could very well be me.
Well,
sounds right.
You just mentioned something, the delusional bit. So I have seen firsthand in real life, not on Instagram, people who they're like, I have this idea, or I believe that I'm this person. I'm like, but you're not that guy, pal.
Correct.
You're not.
Correct.
But they believe it so hard
that you're like, is he that guy?
Other people start believing it.
I get tripped up. I'm like, who's this guy? Is he that guy?
And then things start happening for them.
Truly.
And this has been a truth I've learned time and again. Instead of me, because I used to, I'm a bit of a pessimist. I can be kind of,
Me too. Like I spiral off the deep end regularly.
Right, quickly.
I did it the other day.
Yeah. Like I'll see someone and I feel like I like to think I get a good read on people pretty quick. And I'm like, this guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
Right? But then 6 months, year goes by, and I'm like, oh, there's that guy getting opportunities. And I'm like, what's the common theme? I'm like, oh, he was delusional enough to believe
literally
that he could do it.
Correct.
And
I mean, I don't want to promote blind delusion.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
So like if you quite legitimately have never trained anybody and you don't know anything and you just have been working out and you think you're a coach, you're not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But like I went to grad school.
Yeah.
I have, a bunch of letters after my name. I went out and got every certification that I could get because
literally
I was
worked in Power 5.
Fucking do
for
this. Years. Yeah. And so now I've like earned the right to be delusional as fuck.
Yes.
Right. And that's how I look at it. And I'm just like, so when I got out, like, you're like, how did you do it? What's the first step? I got out and I was like, not me owning my own business, $0, right?
Yes.
$0. But I was like, not just a businesswoman coach, and I just was like, oh, I train. Like I train people. I train people. And then they were like, oh, you used to play lacrosse. Do you do lacrosse lessons? So I'm like, absolutely I do. I go to the house. I'm like, Mom, you want to train? You want to work out? I'll give you a free workout right now after lacrosse lesson. If you like it, we could do it 3 times a week. Like I just was at it. Like, and this was when I was in DC. I was just like at it. And then you get one lacrosse lesson and then somebody else texts you and then somebody finds out you're a strength coach and then you're working with a whole soccer team. And then, you know what I mean? Like I was just about it.
You know what though? Because I've seen, so like, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that there are 2 sides to that. One, you were ambitious and dedicated and willing enough to put yourself in those scenarios and go out and make those things happen effectively. Also, there's another piece to that where it's like, people don't want to work with people they don't like. And like people don't refer friends, family to other people. Like that sort of ripple effect doesn't occur unless you're getting results or people genuinely enjoy working with you.
Correct.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think one, I have a lot of weaknesses, don't get me wrong. I think one of my strengths is I'm really good at kind of like being a chameleon, right? So like I have learned through working with thousands of athletes with different personalities how to just like match energy and, understand what somebody wants from an interaction, right? So I think a lot of coaches get this wrong because I think coaches have like a thing, right? Like there's the guy in your face where he's like, let's fucking go. And I'm like, this woman's 40. Right. Like she doesn't want to fucking go. Like she just wants to do a couple lunges and leave. You know what I mean? And like, you have to respect that. Or this person doesn't want to sweat their ass off for an hour. She wants to talk shit about her neighbors and maybe do like 10 things.
Here for it.
And that's the thing is like, you have to adapt to what people want. Like we're not in collegiate anymore. So that's what I would say is huge about private sector is like, yeah, I want to do the training that I want to do, but also I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. Like if you want to go slow, if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to, I'm going to say, hey, professionally, I recommend that. Yeah. Or I recommend this. Yeah. But like, I'm going to adapt to the situation that you want to be in because you're paying for an experience as well.
Preach.
You know what I mean?
Jessica, thank you so much.
I guess you're welcome. I don't know what it is.
No, because people of an adjustment I see people have a hard time making in this transition is understanding the fact that it's no longer your way or the highway.
Yeah.
And if it is, then people are going to choose the highway. And the difficulty I think some people can have with that, even in people who have never worked in collegiate or in a real super structured, more rigid setting where it's like you show up, you do the work. This is the workout. This is what you're doing. Correct. Is in private, you're providing a service. You're providing a service. And like people programming is not necessarily the most important thing in fact, more oftentimes it's not.
Let's also talk about programming
Yeah.
for Gen Pop. Like, chill, fucking chill. Oh my God, chill.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, progressive overload. Yeah. But like, Susan doesn't want to do the same program for 8 weeks.
Right.
Because she's not a fucking athlete.
Right. Susan doesn't need triphasic, which I at one point in life, I was using triphasic principles with an 80-year-old woman, not exaggerating.
Love that.
She got strong.
Susan's doing contrast training. She's doing astronaut jumps. She's doing fucking no, like stop.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. You know what I mean? It can be a great product and just not a product that you would give a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Those things are not mutually exclusive. You know what I mean? So I see so many coaches that come over to the private sector and they're just like mentally going through like the programming, and I'm like, I made up Susan's program 9 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And it's still the best workout she's ever had in her fucking life.
Right.
And we're going to talk shit about her ex-husband, Brad, the entire time.
Yeah. Right.
And Susan has never been happier and she's never looked better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it just, you have to, so, you know, I think that all circles back to like, you have to just adapt to your surrounding, and you got to know what your thing is, right? And like, I'm that person. Like, I will give you a great workout. I'm not gonna, you know, take it easy on you. I'm not gonna take your bullshit. Yeah, I didn't want to do this. I'm gonna say, okay, then look the way you look right now. I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Does it check still clears, Susan? Right. I don't know why. I don't even have a client named Susan.
Susan's getting buried on this show.
She's catching strays.
She is. Get wrecked, Susan.
Tough. But you know what I mean? Like, so you have to know what your thing is, right? And then you have to be adaptable. And like, I have kids that I coach that they're just like shy kids. And like, yeah, we break the mold eventually, but like, I'm not in their face. Like, I'm worried about them feeling comfortable. And then like maybe day 2, I make a joke, you know, see how it lands, you know? And I'm like, are we cool, you know? And it's all about providing that experience. So it's like, I think we don't remember that when we're in collegiate, these kids are doing a job, right? And they have to be there. Yeah. And then it's like, when you get into the private sector, there's a million of you and they can pick any of those people.
Yep.
And so you have to provide an experience that they prefer over something they can get somewhere else. And, you know, so it's just different.
Zach, what's the best training app on the planet?
It has to be Train Heroic. Gone are the days of sending the old crusty PDF. Now we have a sleek new app.
It's easy to use. There's videos with descriptions. You get to track and log your weight, your reps. There's a community chat function. You can submit videos. You can get feedback.
How about the leaderboard, Tim?
I started using Train Heroic first as an athlete and someone who wanted to learn. Now I use it as a coach. Athletes and other coaches can go and be a part of my training community and get results.
Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just like to train, use the link in our description to find out how you can train on the best app in the world.
And join us on Train Heroic today.
The Coach 'em Up podcast is sponsored by Squat Wedgies. Tim, what are Squat Wedgies?
Squat Wedgies are an adjustable squat wedge, 7, 13, and 20 degrees.
It's big enough to elevate your whole foot and not just your heel.
Because it's rubber, it doesn't slide on surfaces.
It's 22 pounds, so it's durable and stable enough for even your biggest athletes.
There's a 90-day risk-free trial. The shipping is free, and
get 15% off Squat Wedgies with our discount code coachemup15.
coachemup15 for 15% off of the best squat wedge on the planet. What are some of the biggest similarities and differences that you've found in working with athletes in the collegiate setting and in the private setting? Like, what have been the things that have jumped out to you the most?
I like the team environment of collegiate better. However, an athlete who is actively choosing to be with you and spend their time with you will often give you more. They have skin in the game, right? There is nothing guaranteed. You know, you're probably in the same situation. When I was, you know, working with youth athletes, a lot of skin in the game. Kids work really hard, especially if they're paying you like a one-on-one, you know, session. And then a lot of the collegiate athletes that I would get would be kids that would come home for the summer and they'd be like, I'm not playing and I want to fucking play. Right. Yeah. And I'd be like, let's go.
Time to roll.
You're either going to play or you're going to be jacked as fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, whichever one happens.
Yes.
Because I can't control. There's a lot of it I can't control.
Right.
But, I'm in.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm fired up.
Let's go.
So, and you get those kids in collegiate, of course. But it's
Sure.
like, and obviously the ability is different. You touched on that. But in private sector, I think people often refer to collegiate as like the big leagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think people don't understand that there's such a diminishing return that coaching can have as you increase through the lifespan and through the training age. So I'm not going to have a 30% impact within a 19-year-old that's been lifting for 10 years.
Right.
I'm just not. But if I have a kid who's 11 that just like cannot get the coordination down to, change direction effectively or accelerate or decelerate or whatever it is,
right,
I can have a 40% impact there, right? And so it's like, okay, you want to call this the big leagues, but like this is where the change is being made.
Mm-hmm.
So I have kind of reframed a little bit because I think there's a lot of ego that goes into collegiate, right?
For sure.
And I see it with a lot of my peers that don't associate with me now that I am in the private sector.
Oh, the fact you sang it was so good.
Well, because I don't know why I did that. I've never done that before. That was crazy artistic choice.
That was so good.
But I don't know. I don't know where that came from, Susan. So
yeah, is Susan in the room with us?
Is Susan here? So like and you see it because like they literally don't, like, now that I've left collegiate, they're like, Jessica Burke, I've never heard of her. And I'm like, well, you have, because you watch my stories all the time, but separate discussion. You're here. I see you in the audience, The call is coming from inside the house.
That's right.
But like, there's a lot of ego that goes into it because you're like, oh, it's so high level. And then there's like this looking down on like middle school and high school. The ability to impact an athlete's performance is immense. And the ability to impact, like, once you lay the groundwork there and the athlete's not doing their first fucking goblet squat at 18 in the weight room at Penn State and they're doing it in 7th grade in a controlled environment, like, what do you think that does? What do you think that does to the trajectory of that athlete?
Yep.
So I challenge people who think that there's this, big league of coaching and that this is insignificant, because when you look at it, that entire spectrum kind of flips on its head. Right. So, yeah.
I think what happens in any high pressure cooker environment, even just outside of, like collegiate strength conditioning, okay? Even like a corporate job, when you take a group of people and the stakes are high and they're with each other all the time and the iron's sharpening the iron, oftentimes you'll end up with a crew that like really takes themselves very seriously and kind of views themselves as being superior to everybody else. Did you get some of that vibe being in some Power 5 situations?
I'm going to tell a story.
All right, let's hear a story. I love stories.
Story time.
Okay.
We're going to leave names out of this because I'm feeling generous today.
Okay, here we go.
Susan already caught a stray, so no more name dropping.
Okay.
Susan's not real, by the way. I just want, for legal reasons.
For legal purposes.
That's cease and desist from Susan. I'm like, I don't even fucking know you. This wasn't about you. Okay. So one time I was in a staff meeting. Yes. And I don't know what had happened to catalyze this, but the department was like, we really need to focus on group continuing education. And I was like, this should be excellent. I'm ready for this. I love continuing ed. I think we should always be learning. So I'm like, what are we doing? Right? Sent out this like article. I'm like, great, read it. There's like a peer-reviewed study attached to it. Great, read it. It's about pronation angles, right? And the ability to kind of manipulate strength and through like size of muscle and mechanical advantage and things like that. Because obviously when you increase the muscle, you increase the pronation angle. There's, advantages, strength, whatever, right? However, in the weeds you want to get with it. I read the study. I'm like, great. That's good information. We get into this meeting. I am on the island of misfit toys and nobody knows it but me.
Right.
Like these guys are like, one guy, I couldn't say panation, right? Right. And then they're like, yeah, well, if you look at it, the delta, and I'm like, tell me what delta means right now.
Yeah.
Tell me what delta means right now. Say it in front of the whole class. They're all like, well, and then one guy, well, I mean, really, is it making that much of a difference when you think of like a 1% increase? I'm like, do you know how much a 1% angle is physiologically? Like, that's a lot. Like, and they're like, well, actually, if you look at, and the one guy's like, well, is panation angle where the tendon, and I'm like, fucking Christ. Like and it was like all of this just like mental gymnastics. And I'm just sitting there and the one guy's still struggling to say panation, right? And I'm just sitting there and I'm watching and it's just like, I could have a smarter conversation with the trainers at LA Fitness. Mm-hmm. But like you guys literally think that you are like the Michelangelo of strength and conditioning. Like they, in that moment, thought they invented panation angles.
Yeah.
They were like, oh,
you know what that reminds me
of? We did
of?
this study.
I am sober now, but I used to do drugs. And once upon a time, I would go out, have a few drinks, maybe experiment with some extracurricular drugs.
Great.
And you end up in someone's kitchen at 3 a.m. and everyone's talking.
No, because there's actual ideas there. The drug kitchen at 3 a.m., there's actual ideas floating around.
Okay.
Right? And and I think
so this was just a circle jerk with not a single thought was in the chat.
Not one cohesive idea flying across the room. And I was literally like, no way. And I literally were there for 20 minutes. And I just go, I have a meeting with a sport coach. And I just left because I was like, no, I didn't. I went to Panera. Yeah. I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
And it's just, nobody knew what it meant. There's one coach in there. God bless her. I was like, you didn't even read this. There's no, no, you didn't make your way through. Let's look me in the eyes and tell me you read a study. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it was just like, it was like one of those things where you're truly in this situation. You're like, everybody thinks they have an IQ of 160 in this room, and no one has said anything in the last 3 months. And you know how long that continuing education initiative lasted with that staff? That was the last one.
Wow.
One and done. Because we couldn't handle it because there were no ideas, there were no concepts, there was no education, right? And it was just like, that was my first, because that was, I'm going to give myself away here. That was my first full-time position in Collegiate in Power 5. And that was such an earth-shattering moment for me because I interned at Michigan, right? And I had a good experience with some of the coaches, and some of the coaches were straight up bullies. But some of the coaches were super smart. Yeah. Like I'm
actually
talking
smart.
Super fucking smart.
Yeah.
Like
when you meet someone who cares about what they do and they talk for 5 minutes and you fucking feel you're like, oh shit. This person's fucking smart. You know it. It doesn't take long.
And there were two coaches at Michigan, and I always drop their names, so I'm not going to do it because they're probably like, Jessica, stop
enough is enough.
selling us out. Stop associating yourself. We don't associate with you. So call back. So
this is a good one.
So, but I used to literally eat my lunch and just like sit on the floor of one of their offices and just eat and just hope that like they would say something or some of the information would cross into my brain. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, that's how smart they were. And then I'm sitting at this thing and a guy's like, what is a penish? And I'm like, oh.
You're like, maybe that's why you ended up at Panera.
Truly. Truly.
Yeah.
And I had a more intellectual experience ordering my You Pick 2 than I did in the continuing education meeting.
I think people would be alarmed. Now, I do feel like as more and more money gets funneled into sports in general, particularly now with the way the collegiate landscape looks, this is going to get weeded out a bit more. But as someone who works with I've worked with a lot of high-level athletes at the collegiate and professional level. I've been very blessed and fortunate to do that. You would assume that the coaches that they work with are all like, essentially elite. Yeah. And, highly intelligent. And like, that's not, it does not necessarily, the two don't always correlate at all.
No, and I never want to give collegiate a bad name,
right?
But it's like any other industry, right?
It is. There's good doctors and bad doctors.
Fucking greats. Like there are some greats. Like there are some coaches that I look at them and I'm like, I wish I could be you every day. I can't in a collegiate setting because it wears me down too much. But but there are truly like some people that should just like not be in the profession and they're ruining it for everybody else. And like they are just not like there for the right reasons. Like they're there, because they want to say they, are the baseball, basketball, football strength coach at XYZ. And, it's like it goes back to how we were saying, there's so much ego attached to the profession.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that just like shouldn't be there.
How has your philosophy shifted around coaching and communicating with people now that you've made the transition out of the collegiate space? And how long have you been in private now?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 2 years.
What's been the biggest evolution for you there?
In terms of my philosophy?
Yeah, your coaching philosophy and like how you communicate with athletes and clients. I don't know if it's necessarily, well, I'll set the stage with this. I could not be the coach that I wanted to be inside of the collegiate environment, right? Some days I could, and some days I really could not. Like, I want to be the coach that's understanding, that's patient, that's calculated, that's always prepared. Because that's who I am in my best, scenario. But collegiate didn't give me the boundaries to do that because I was exhausted. I was ornery. I was being argued with all the time. I was being talked down to by male superiors. You know what I mean? So it didn't give me the tools to do that. So I don't know how much my philosophy has changed, right? But I do know that the confines in which I operate and my lifestyle have changed so drastically that I now can confidently say that I'm able to show up as the coach that I want to be all the time. That's fucking awesome.
Right?
Yes.
And that was my dream. Thank you. I appreciate it. And that was my dream scenario in collegiate, right? Was being able to be that person. And there were some people that could be that person.
Yeah.
And I like resented myself because I couldn't do it because I was so,
I will myself to
like not be depressed that I'm poor and working 97 hours a week.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's just, I didn't have the tools to do that, and I take accountability for my part in that. Like I could have been more patient. I could have been, more calculated. I could have been more prepared, but I didn't have, like, I wasn't my best self. I wasn't my best coaching self. And then from a philosophy standpoint, I think it's big to acknowledge that my coaching philosophy between collegiate and private sector hasn't changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to. And I think people thinking that there's an ocean between these two worlds is what causes people to think that collegiate is so much fucking better than private sector. And we're doing the same things.
Yeah.
Except for I'm getting paid.
Yeah. And maybe we're doing it with 135 pounds over here and,
And it doesn't matter.
Right. And there just happens to be a Tendo unit on the other one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And, don't act like you're doing anything with that fucking Tendo data. So that was like my forte, right? I was like the data girl because I was in my econ and statistics background. You know what I mean? Like I was in the weeds with the data.
Yeah.
But like I saw all these other guys like just jerking over the fucking gym aware data. And I'm like, tell me what a mean is. Explain it right now. What are you doing with that data? No chance. The force play, stop. You don't know what any of this shit means.
Oh, God.
So,
we had Sam Contorno on the show who shout out Sam. She's just the fucking coolest as a person, but she's so smart and she's, sports scientist.
Yeah.
But she just cuts through all the bullshit.
As you have to. With
and you would hope so.
Well, they don't. No. Well, because it's more of, sports science especially is more of kind of what we talked about with my little story time where it's just like the circle jerk over did you see that like braking force? Did you see that? I'm like, nobody gives a fuck about what you just said. Right. Like, what do we need to do? How do we make use of this data? Like, nobody cares.
Yeah, that's where
like, did you see a 4% increase? Nobody cares. Did we win?
Right.
I don't give a rip ass about your vertical jump. Are we winning?
Yeah.
Are you scoring more? Are you healthier? You know what I mean? So it's like, I love people in sports science that like understand that the data is a tool and that the data is not, you know.
It's not the end game.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
On your page, something that stands out to me.
Sorry.
So listen, first of all, your social media, I love it. You're obviously entirely yourself. At least
correct.
That's my impression of
You're
you.
having the same experience now as you have when you scroll my
100%.
See, there's nothing.
You are who you are, and
consistent.
it's unapologetic,
It's
and
not
it's
good,
awesome.
It's not bad. It's consistent.
And dude, like, it's refreshing, and I think you do a masterful job of navigating some pretty, difficult topics and some frankly bullshit that you have to deal with, and I want to get through all of it.
Let's get through all of it.
So let's talk about women taking up space.
Yes.
Define that.
Okay.
Why is it important?
Yes.
And what about that? Why do you feel compelled to make that a priority?
Yeah. So I think, how do I want to say this? Because I want to be eloquent about this. Well, as eloquent as I can possibly be. Taking up space to me is obviously in the physical sense, but also, in the metaphorical sense of like being involved in an industry that we were previously like pretty excluded from, right? So the double meaning that I have to that is like, I have so few women come to me now, and I know a large part of it is because of my branding. But when people come to work with me, 10 years ago, it was, I want to be skinny. I want to go to the Bahamas in 6 weeks. I want to wear my bikini. Don't want to eat. I want to do cardio,
Yeah.
And now it's like,
Can I get lean and long?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I want to be strong.
Yeah.
I don't take care of my body like so that men can look at me and think I'm attractive. In a lot of scenarios, like these women are in like great relationships with men who are not fragile as fuck and who appreciate them in different phases of life and in different bodies, right? Because that's a real thing.
Yep.
And I just get tired of the men who like are married and like get a girl pregnant and then they're like, uh-oh, you don't look what?
Whoops.
You don't look 19 anymore. It's like, you're disgusting. So, but we've seen this shift of like women being like, oh wait, it's okay to not want to be 100 fucking pounds.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to want to look jacked, to want to be strong, to want to feel athletic in the gym. Like women are so much more comfortable taking up space in the gym and just taking up space in life, whether it be like verbally, emotionally, right? Physically. So that shift is something I encourage, right?
Yeah.
Because there is nobody of value in your life that is going to love you more, appreciate you more when you are just a tiny little twig and you're going to feel like shit in 10, 15, 20 years. And that's the truth, right? Because we saw it with our parents' generation and the women now who have no muscle on them, who have limited mobility.
Is it all right?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I'm 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're about the same age.
Yeah. So, but you know what I mean? That generation of like almond moms and, being thin and not lifting weights and, I had a big lunch. I'm not
I know. I'm okay. I'm not that hungry, really.
Not really. I've never been not that hungry.
Same.
Not once in my life. And so like that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to accept that. And that's something that I encourage. And it's not this like feminist woo-woo bullshit. It's like, which I don't think feminist is bullshit. Like I am a feminist, but it's deeper than that in the sense that it's like women are okay looking a different way than the way that they've thought they've needed to look for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's fucking awesome. And I love it. And I can help them do that. And then in terms of taking up space in strength and conditioning, I lived a very real transition of noticing that there were no women around me and then noticing that there started to be women around me and noticing how fucking uncomfortable it made the men that were so comfortable with zero women in the space.
Yeah.
Right? And when I say take up space in strength and conditioning, right, there are things that I handled well, there are things that I handled poorly, but I never accepted mistreatment. I never accepted a comment that was meant to go under the radar. My favorite thing, I was always like, can you explain why that's funny? Can you explain why you said that? Can you explain why you thought that was necessary? Can you explain what you meant by that? Right? that stuff, sorry, people at Purdue, that stuff never went unchecked. Right?
Yeah.
And
well, but that's been the expectation up to this point, right?
It went unchecked.
Yeah.
It was like, ha.
Particularly if it's a superior or it's just like, oh, I can do what I want, say what I want.
Like, oh, I'm going to make a joke about an athlete's body. Can you say that louder in front of me about a female athlete when you're 30 and she's 18? Can you say it louder? Can you say it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that previously went so unchecked. And now I have so much respect because it's hard. Like in front of the men, I would be like, fuck you, fuck your mom. You know what I mean? Like, but I would like go to my car and cry. I'd be like shaking because I'm like, I'm not supposed to do that. Like and like I was like a walking HR nightmare because I knew all of this shit about all of these people in Collegiate and I stood up to every single one of them and they're like, well, Jessica's causing trouble. And I'm like, by not being sexually harassed, Sammy, you know what I mean? Or like by not accepting mistreatment, sorry, like, but I'm not, And so for me, I'm hoping that the field starts to shift because even though we're seeing more women in that space is not necessarily becoming friendlier for women. Sure. If that makes sense.
100%.
So, I mean, that's what I mean by taking up space, right? And by just like, saying something, even if it's not the perfect thing, right? It doesn't have to be the perfect thing, but just like not letting people get away with bullshit that they've gotten away with for the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, the simplest way to think about it is like, there's really not a scenario. I've struggled with authority in the past when it feels like just because your title's higher than mine, you feel like it's okay to talk to me or treat me a certain kind of way.
Correct.
Devoid of respect, of lack of normal human decency.
Correct.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
We're not.
And
this is going to be addressed.
And and the thing that's funny is like when I got into, I had always been like that, like growing up, right? I used to like work at restaurants and the male managers were like, you're stupid. And I'm like, fuck you, Jerry. Fuck you. And I'm like 16. They're like, you're fired. I'm like, great. See you tomorrow because you don't have anybody else to work this fucking stupid shift. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like,
it's like, this is Chili's, Jerry.
Yeah, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, I'll be back here. By the way, Susan's taking my shift.
By the way, Susan's coming in and you're going to hate that. You're going to hate that even more. Yeah. Fucking Susan catching strays today. But I had that problem. Yeah. And then I got to Collegiate and it was like so ingrained. And I had so much respect for the people, but just like automatically, I had so much respect for the people above me. And like, even when I was at Michigan, I knew it was a learning experience and I wanted to be like a sponge, right? And there were people there that were so mean. Like so mean, right? I would cry in my car all the time.
What do you think that is? It's a generational thing, almost certainly.
Yeah.
But right, to a degree. But is it like a survival? Like what makes people feel like it's okay to talk? And just because they're stressed and like, because it's a high? Because like, listen, I've been in situations growing up where it's like, particularly, I played football growing up.
Yeah.
I've been in high pressure environments where it's like, the expectation is like, you're going to shut the fuck up. You're going to eat shit and you're going to fucking like it. Or it's going to get worse for you, dude.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
There's been times I've had to do it.
And I think,
I don't do it anymore.
I think that's also like a coaching. And I think so many coaches, especially the ones that are like intense, have trouble like compartmentalizing that, right? Where it's like, I'm not your fucking athlete.
No, time out.
Like I might be your intern.
Right.
Right. But also, I work the same amount of hours a week as you do. I don't get fucking paid and you can't do your job without me. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So how about we stop? Like I just remember,
there's some intern out here listening to this portion of the show and they're like crying in their car now because they feel seen.
I know. And they're like, you're just kind of like, you're welcome. Well, but it's true. And like, I spent so much time there just like getting fucking chewed for nothing. Right. Like it wasn't like, you were negligent, you did this, you didn't show up. Yep. Never that. It was like...
Yeah, you weren't spotting them.
You're a fucking idiot. Why you idiot? This is a black band and I asked for a black different band. You fucking dumbass. In front of the athletes and you're like, yes, coach. Yeah, coach. Sorry, coach. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I accepted that for so long in collegiate. And then I, because I was like an intern and I was like, I'm just going to learn. And then I got past that point and into full time. And it was almost like sneakier. And it was like just like weird, like mean girl shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know who's good at being mean girls? Girls. I made it through high school. You know what I mean? One time my boss came up to me. I was working with an athlete and she was like, Jessica, you're cool as hell. But like when I first met you, your face, it was like so intimidating. Boss comes out of nowhere, just drops from the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where the fuck he came from.
Just teleports.
And he just goes, I don't find you intimidating. And I go, what a weird thing to say.
Yeah. What an odd.
Was that all? Did you come over here to contribute that to this interaction?
I don't find you intimidating.
I'm like, first off, let's talk about where the fuck you just came from. Because I didn't see you anywhere. No, so it's like, you know what I mean? And I just learned how to kind of play that game. And then I just got into this thing of like, I don't want to be in high school for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I don't want to do that. And so, I mean, if you like playing the game and you're a mean gal who can do it, more power to you because we need you out there.
I can't do politics.
I can't either. I couldn't.
Cannot. Well, I don't have it in me.
Because I'm going to lose the vote. If politics is, let's keep everybody happy and vote for the guy we like, it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the guy we like. Yeah. I'll tell you that much right now because I'm going to do my job and I'm going to stick to my guns. And so, yeah, I can't do the politics either.
And I guess this all started with me asking you to explain taking up space. So thank you.
Correct.
First of all.
Sorry.
No.
Tangent.
No,
damn it,
Susan. That's what we do on the show.
Susan in the booth? Yeah. Susan, cut me off next time.
Susan. Yeah. Susan, can we look that up? Is it fair to say that you speak to a mostly female audience on your page?
It is fair to say. But then I actually looked at my insights the other day and it was more male than I would expect. It's about 25-75, which is more than I would expect. But I think there are a pretty big subset of male strength coaches that aren't intimidated by the idea of a woman existing and like speaking her mind that follow me, right? Yeah. And then I think just like guys who think it's funny that I am an asshole. Yeah. Which, welcome.
I think I'm both of those.
You're my general audience.
I like to think I'm both.
I love that. I love that you're right in the middle of that Venn diagram. Yes, that's my favorite audience.
Yes. It's awesome.
It's my favorite audience.
You talk a lot about food, the relationship that people have with food, particularly the societal view that women often have in relationship with food and good and bad.
Yeah.
And those are difficult topics for anyone to navigate, but you do such a good job of it and you do it in a way that's authentic and to the point and devoid of fluff and bullshit. But I see a lot of that on your page. So I guess my first question is like, do you have experience navigating this personally? Because I would assume, I'm like, there's a reason for this.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think I experienced it a lot. Like when I first started getting into just fitness in general, I mean, it was like, early 2010s and like kind of bodybuilding culture was like being kind of normalized. It was gaining popularity. And, that was the fitness content that was on Instagram. Yep. And I had a great experience growing up. Like my parents were very food positive. Like it was never like I was never like being told to go on a diet or, you know what I mean? Nothing like that. And I'm tall and I'm not small. So like I ate a lot growing up. Right. And then, I wanted to have more power over the way that my body looked and the way it performed. And I had so much trouble finding a way to do that with the tools that I had, right? Even inside of the industry, all I was being told is like to count your calories and to count your macros and to track your protein and to not eat carbs and to not eat after 8 p.m. and like all of this shit. And it was all somehow conflicting, but it was all wrong, And I felt so out of control and so... I had never experienced shame around food. I know a lot of women had from like such a young age, but like I was like having this, again, quarter life crisis where I was like, should I hate food? Like, do I need to eat less? Like,
right.
There was nothing out there that told me it was okay to eat. There was nothing out there that told me how to fuel. And there was nothing out there that was really realistic about the impact that food can have and does have on your physique, on your, energy levels, everything like that. And, there's still a ton of terrible content out there today, And so for me, it's something I experienced really personally. And, I gained weight after college, as everybody does. And it didn't ever get too extreme, but I got extreme with my practices and I was restricting and I just really watched my health decline and I watched myself focus on, my weight and my body composition way too much. And I could have been driving that change with better habits in the gym, better sleep, better, but I was doing it with restriction of food. And then the more general population clients I started to talk to, and even the more athletes, like in Collegiate, like there are girls that run cross country that think they need to be eating 1,800 calories a day, And so I was like, holy fuck, like everybody is dealing with it. And like, I noticed that if I'm dealing with it in a space where I'm educated on the topic, what the fuck is everybody else doing?
Literally, people are fighting for their fucking lives. Literally. That's what they're doing. They're getting battered around the ocean of just social media and what their friend said at dinner last night. And they're like a buoy in a storm. And it's just, there's no end in sight.
And I mean, I watched college athletes cry over DEXA scans where they had like 17% body fat.
Right.
Like, bitch, you're ripped.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it just, I knew it was a problem for me at the time. And it was like really affirming because I was like, holy shit, like everybody feels like this, everybody feels this pressure, especially women, and even guys. Like, I think it's under, talked about in the circle of like men in fitness. Like, I know so many men that have disordered views on eating 100%.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And it's something that I wanted to broach and I knew I could do it in a relatable way.
Yeah.
But I knew that none of my training in the gym would ever make a difference with anybody that I coached if I didn't address some of these topics and make them more approachable.
Yep.
So that was kind of like the inspiration with that. But yeah, it was hugely personal. Like, I have done every trend and diet and supplement and product. You know what I mean? I've done everything. So I appreciate you saying that because that's kind of my goal is to make.
Well, it feels personal.
Yeah.
And you also I guess this is a compliment / observation. But it feels to me the way that you navigate social media and your content creation is just so sustainable because it's so authentic. And I feel like it's so easy. And this is the next topic I want to get to, navigating social media and growing an online brand and business. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get fixated on the reach and the engagement and the likes. And it's a lot less common to focus entirely on the authenticity and the quality of the message that you're trying to convey.
Yeah.
And I think you do both of those things very well.
I appreciate that.
And it feels like you're also committed to that as well. Are those fair observations or am I?
Yeah, no, you create content as well.
I do.
There's an ebb and a flow, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you are really fucking passionate about it. You're like, I gotta educate these people. Like, this is my, like, I'm building something here. And then some days you're like, if I have to edit another reel, it's over.
Yep.
It's over. And I have kind of monitored, not strictly, but I've monitored what that ebb and flow looks like for me and what causes it. And when I am putting out content that I think everybody is going to like, I hate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Have you had the experience where you put something together and you're like, I like this, but it's kind of dumb and I didn't work that hard on it, and then it outperforms everything else you do?
Have you been on my page? I put together great fucking educational content.
Yeah.
And then the second I talk in a New York accent and eat a meatball sub, people are like, this is brilliant.
Brilliant.
10,000 followers.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes,
do it again.
Right. Yeah, it's on the For You page. Yeah,
Literally.
Do it again.
So
do it again.
no.
I mean, can you make this a series? Yeah.
Absolutely. Literally. And I kind of have, unfortunately. And I found a balance between that because, I mean, I also like it. Like, I like being funny.
Yeah.
I like having a personality. I think I'm good at connecting with people. And so for me, I found this balance of like, there is going to be, pieces of content that have higher reach, but I also have a fucking audience right now.
Yeah.
And I've never taken that for granted. And even when it was 1,000 people, I'm like, imagine if 1,000 people were sitting in this room listening to me talk. I'd be terrified, right? That's a lot of people, So I've always been like, how do I... It's
such a great way of...
It's a lot of fucking people, you know what I mean?
It's a shit ton of people.
Like, think about, like, somebody's stuff, it gets like 6 million views. I'm like, who the fuck, who's watching this?
Exactly.
Like, put me in jail. This is ridiculous. Who the fuck? Calm down. Enough. So it's like, I think people get so caught up in like the growth and, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I need that every once in a while because I need affirmation that I am on an upward trajectory, especially after, quitting my job, what I thought was my dream job and doing this. I need that affirmation every once in a while. And I think that's okay. But knowing that, like, once you get to a certain level, like, I used to post stuff and it used to like kind of flop in the beginning. And I was like, fuck, why did I post that? That was stupid.
Yeah.
And then now I post stuff and like it kind of flops. It gets like, 10, 15,000 views. And then I have somebody text me and they're like, or, DM me and they're like, oh, this is what I needed to see today.
Nice.
That has been in my audience forever. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's why I'm here.
Yep.
So you can't get so caught up creating a new audience that you are not nurturing your current one. Because I have people, I mean, since I've had like, I think my sticking point was kind of like 4,000, 4,500 followers. And I was in Collegiate. I wasn't posting a lot. And you know what I mean? But like, I have people that have been with me since then. And they are like, they still to this day tell me how much they love and appreciate my content. Mm-hmm. And it's because I haven't, if I wanted a bunch of followers, I could make 10 replicas of that meatball sub video and blow up. Yeah. Right? The people loved it.
Love the meatball sub vids.
People were disappointed that wasn't my voice. Going through the aggregate comment
who
was
the fuck
like,
is this person on this next swipe?
I scrolled down and that was not your voice. And I even
wait a minute, that's not your real voice.
And I've even commented back and I'm like, I am considering changing it because of the positive response.
For you, I'll change it.
I'm like,
if this is the amount of validation I get.
You guys loved it. Yeah. It's my voice now.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
Alec Baldwin's wife.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this?
Yes.
Okay. What is her name? Her real name's like Helen, but it's like Hala. Okay.
Okay.
But she is a white American woman.
Correct.
Has lived here her whole life.
Yeah, not like a first-gen immigrant. Correct.
She, in her mind, believes that she is of Latin descent and speaks with an accent appropriate to this. So like she pretended, I saw on TikTok, she pretended to not know the English word for onion.
Correct. I did see that.
You saw that.
That has like 9 million views. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
She's either just the master of the New York meatball sub voice.
It's a long con. It's a long con.
It's a long play.
Because one day she's going to go on TikTok and she's going to be like, fucking got you guys.
Gotcha, dummy.
Idiots.
God damn it. I was going to ask you something important and now I can't remember.
Meatball subs.
Dude, the comment section.
I love it.
Two things actually. One thing before we get into this. Okay. Can we normalize just it being okay to want your content to do well?
Yeah.
And to want, because I feel like there's this weird thing where people are like, they're like, that's not, I don't really care.
Fuck you, you don't mean it. I'm going to say it to those people right now. I like my own shit. People call me out for double tapping my own shit. I go, if I don't like my shit, are you fucking kidding? I'm my biggest fan. I would follow me if I could on my account.
You should create a burner to follow you.
Truly.
For no other reason.
Truly. I rewatch my shit. I'm like,
people make burners for way nerdier loser reasons than that.
Sometimes my For You page, I just go on my shit and I'm like, this girl's
who is this?
I'm like, she's got a point.
She's did funny. You hear that New York accent?
She's funny. I like that girl. Yeah, no. You normalize it, absolutely. Yeah.
You the way you handle the hate is top fucking tier. Honestly, I don't know that anyone's doing it better than you.
I love that.
I mean it. It's so entertaining. I thoroughly enjoy it. I've been known, I'm not afraid. If I got time and I'm in the mood, I'm going to try and make you feel real dumb. You know, if you come at me crazy.
Correct.
Right? You do it so much better than me, than I ever could. Just the way the comments will populate. I mean, just all of it. Just so can you talk about one, and all jokes aside, navigating some of the absolute nonsense that happens in your comment sections and in your DMs. And maybe we take a step back further than that.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, what is that about?
Truly, what the fuck? I think it's so funny too, because my content is not like, I'm not hurting anybody.
No.
I'm not picking on anybody until you call it upon yourself to be picked on. So when I make content and I say, it starts with, I say like, this is insecure men doing this. And then you get pissed, you are insecure men. And it's a public admission of that. And it's embarrassing. And it's memorialized on the internet forever.
Forever and ever.
I just want you to know that you're fucking calling yourself out. Because, so the thing is, it used to hurt my feelings. I used to be in my feelings, dog. And that's because I wasn't like feeling great about myself. You know, I wasn't my life. I was like, you know, stressed and whatever. I mean, I'm still stressed, but I'm delusional now. So.
Hell yeah, dude.
But I used to be in my feelings. I used to be like, Catboy69 thinks I'm fat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Good. Because I just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, what? Catboy69? Are you joking? And I got to this point where it became fun for me and like people started to follow me because of the way that I interacted with it. Because it's like, people are like, oh, just like, don't interact. And I'm like, I'm going to have some fucking fun.
Yeah, this is funny to me.
I'm going to tell Catboy69 that I'm going to be a stepmom. You know what I mean? Like, like I'm going to go all the way in.
You want to go low? I'll go lower, Catboy.
Truly.
Yeah.
And then
Truly.
truly I will. I have no, there's no, like, there's no floor for me. Meet you in hell. And like, I got so much, and people were like, oh, I literally followed you because of the way that you handled this.
Yeah.
Like, and the funny piece of it, going back to like, what the hell? It's always gym bros.
Yeah.
Or people who are like coaches.
Right.
Always. And that would have bothered the shit out of me. I would have been like, this coach thinks okay.
Right.
But if we do the same exact fucking thing and you are nowhere near my tax bracket and we have the same job, you need to see yourself out.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, you're obviously not very good.
Non-issue.
You know what I mean? Like, I cannot imagine commenting, like working, and this is not a knock. I used to work at a big box gym. I can't imagine working my fucking LA Fitness $16 an hour job being like fat hoe.
Right.
Can you miss me with that? Are you joking?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, you don't even do this the way I do this.
You worked at LA Fitness too?
Oh,
that's where I got my start.
That's where that was my first
I was
corporate
a sales
job.
counselor. Sales counselor.
They tried to recruit me for that, and I was like, I'm not going to sell anything.
I was so good at it.
Were you?
And then it took me about 6 weeks, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm lying to people.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh, you get a
found out.
Contract.
Yeah. I had a woman crying. She's like, I can't afford this. I sold her. I did. I sold her a dream.
It's for the numbers. You get addicted to those numbers.
And then my boss, he goes, you turn around and you tell her she signed that contract and that it's legally binding.
You know what?
And I was like, what?
You know what I used to do?
You want me to do what? I'm like, dude, she's crying. It's not that deep. Take the money out of my check, dude.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of reverse sexism for a second. I used to buy the MAs, right? The membership advisor, you guys, right?
Yes.
Fucking donuts and shit. And I used to be like, put them all in my book. I was cooking in that bitch.
You're the fucking truth.
I was working 20 sessions a day, motherfucker.
Wow.
My paychecks were, I mean, now I would laugh at that, but at the time,
you were
busing.
You were LA fitness balling.
I was literally
top tier.
I went to my manager. I was like, make me a master trainer. He's like, you've been here for 3 weeks. I was like, I don't give a fuck.
Doesn't matter.
Don't give a fuck. Do you want donuts or not?
Right. Yeah.
So I was swindling the entire. I was put them all in my book. Put them all in my book.
You.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. You're truly a hustler.
And and honestly, the whole time I worked at LA Fitness, I was drunk. Not at LA Fitness, but like the night before.
Yeah,
for sure.
Honestly, it's probably the only way.
A little bit.
With, you know,
I coached in Sperry's probably 10 times. I ate a McDonald's pancake plate while I was training one time.
God, that's so awesome.
LA Fitness, respect, peace, love, and respect.
Mad respect.
Wow.
Thank you for being.
That was crazy. That was a crazy walk down memory lane. The memes. Wow.
The Coach 'em Up podcast has partnered with Eleiko.
Let's go.
Not only is Eleiko found in 85% of Power 5 schools, but they also offer at-home solutions from racks, flooring, rigs, barbells, bumper plates, your favorite accessories like straps and weightlifting belts, you name it, Eleiko's got you covered. Go to eleiko.com/coachemup and get access to the same equipment that they're using in the best facilities with the best athletes on the planet.
And now, back to the show.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Why is it always dudes in the comment section?
Because they're upset. I
want to make an observation.
Yeah.
Even in my own comment section,
it's dudes.
And in your comment section,
it's dudes.
Yeah. Here's the difference. Mine is, whatever, dude, or you're an idiot, or just you're wrong. Your comment section,
yeah,
it's fucking personal.
It gets granular in there. You know what I mean? Have
you ever had someone say something to you and you're like, is this true? Like, because that's happened to me before.
What? I do. And like, sometimes it is, but I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
Like this one guy, one time he like sent me a DM with my post. He didn't even post in the comment section. So I was like, first off, I know you're a trick ass bitch because you didn't want to memorialize. Posted the DM on my story, by the way. So because I was
amazing. There's no ducking it, motherfucker. He was
literally like,
first off, DM on my story.
This guy looked like Sid the Sloth. No cap. Exact dead ringer. Like, find the difference between the two pictures. The pictures are the same.
Same.
Yeah. So then he comments and he's like, nice mustache. And I'm like, first off, I have an appointment with Sasha to get it waxed on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thank you. Second off, why is it fuller than yours? Let's have that conversation.
Let's talk about it.
Maybe I'll grow it out now that you've mentioned it, because I can see it's fucking upsetting you. So sometimes it is true. And sometimes, shout out Sasha for taking care of me. Sometimes it's true, but it's like, I can laugh at myself, and I've noticed like, and the guys, because you post a lot of like performance content.
Yeah,
like
your
shit is actually like helpful.
Thank you.
I will say that.
I
like it's
appreciate
helpful.
that.
I like look like most of the performance content I see on Instagram, I scroll past that and I'm like, that's a liability. That's stupid. Where the fuck did you learn that? And then I look at your stuff and I'm like, oh shit, I would actually do that with an app. Like I would do that with a person. That's a good idea. I'm going to put that in my back pocket. Right? Like I've like saved some of the shit, right?
Thank you.
So, but then you either get this shit is so dumb, or you get the men who like mentally masturbate on your posts.
Yes.
That are like, actually, according to if you look at the 531 protocol for maximum force exertion, and I'm like,
yep.
What?
Who are we doing this for? Who are you?
Do you want me to read this out on a live stream?
Don't worry, everyone.
Don't worry, he's got it. He's got it.
Thank you for that perspective that had nothing to do with what I actually posted.
And lately, like, people just don't go to my profile. They don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. They're like, you're a fucking online coach. And I'm like, I've literally worked with professional athletes and I didn't see you there.
Yep. I didn't see you there.
Maybe up in the 300s. But
right. Yeah. Did you buy tickets?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was on the field.
Yeah, I didn't see you there. I actually, they let you in for free when you're on the field. So you know what I mean? It's always these guys who are like, fucking online coach. And I'm like, literally the guys that you jerk off over and cosplay over when you wear your stupid little fucking shirts, we've worked out together. Like, imagine wearing another man's name on your back and being like, you're just an online coach, bitch. I'm like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
I can call that guy. We're cool. And you're wearing his name on your back? Tough look. Grown man to grown man.
This
tough
is
look.
why you're a killer in the comments. I love it.
I'm glad that you appreciate that.
I so appreciate it. Profound respect.
Thank you.
You have my undying respect.
Thank you. It's the delusion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we got to get through some topics real quick because we've gone too far as
rapid
it is.
Fire. We've gone too far.
We will. Let's try and keep this rapid fire as possible,
Okay.
which is always hard to do, by the way. But okay. This segment is called 3 Things. It's brought to you by Squat Wedgies. Use code coachemup15, save 15% off at checkout for squat wedges and any other product they got. Jessica, what are 3 things?
Oh God.
Let's say, let's make this specific to the topic of conversation. There's a woman interning, or she's in the collegiate setting right now. She wants to make the transition to the private sector. What are 3 actions, ideas, principles, considerations, things that she can do to put herself in a position or himself in a position to be successful?
Yeah. Kind of what I talked about earlier. 1, you need to really build your personal brand. And I know that sounds like it's just a social media thing, but it's not. People need to know what you do. You need to talk about what you do. I mean, I joked about it when I was at LA Fitness. Like, I would drink a lot. I would go to the bar. I was young and 20s and stuff. Everybody in Cincinnati knew what I fucking did. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I got clients that way. I got people that follow me on Instagram because they met me in the bar bathroom. I got people, you know what I mean? So I would always continuously just be, and I have since I started, people know that I'm a coach. Like, there's no question about that. And then, when someone's like, oh, do you know that Jessica Burke girl? And they're like, oh yeah, she's like a strength coach. She does this. She works with this. Like, people know because I've done such a consistent job of re-articulating what I do and what I'm about. So whether that's on social media, whether that's in your life, I would encourage social media, obviously, because it is the best form of free advertising. Obviously, time isn't free, but yada, yada, yada.
Right.
You have to build that brand. 2, you need to put yourself out there, right? And you will never be, if you can't put yourself out there, you need to stay in collegiate.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of people I know in collegiate that are pretty good coaches that would get eaten alive out here because they can't put themselves in situations. They can't ask for the sale. They can't ask for a chance. They can't, like, anytime anybody mentions anything about fucking working out, I'm like, oh, come get a workout in.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take you through a workout. It'll be sick.
Yep.
We'll work out together. I'll take you through a workout, whatever. Anytime anyone's like, oh, my kid plays soccer, I'm like, oh, how old is he? I can come out to your house and run some speed drills if you want to. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Anytime anybody says anything, I'm on it. I'm on it. The whole thing. And so if you're not willing to put yourself out there, you need to either stay in collegiate or you need to work for somebody. And I don't mean that in a mean way, because there are a lot of people that are excellent coaches that are not good business people, not good sales people.
100%.
And that's fine, but you need to know that about yourself. You can't go 5 years in collegiate and never talk to anybody outside of your office and then be like, I'm going to go out on my own.
Yeah.
When I left, I had 10,000 people on social media that knew what I did.
Yeah.
And that's very different. And then
totally different.
I went to a city and I started telling everybody what I did, and they told everybody, what I did. And then I guess the third thing would be like your point about the grass being greener. Evaluate what you want your life to look like and reverse engineer from there, right? I could have stayed in collegiate because I love coaching as much as I do, but I knew that it didn't align with the way that I wanted my life to look, right? And
that's a tough pill to swallow too.
It's a tough pill to swallow. And also understand that I make coaching in the private sector look amazing because I'm still riding the high of not being depressed and angry and bullied and crying in my car every day.
Yeah.
Right. And I say that in a joking way, but it's fucking true.
Actually, yeah.
I make it look good because of the contrast, right? Yes, I'm making more money than I ever thought I would make in my life, right? Because I just thought I was going to be a director or whatever. Like, we're past that point, you know? I have the freedom to do what I want with my schedule, but I also... Tuesday, I crashed out and cried on my couch, you know, with my dog and my boyfriend because I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Am I doing enough? Because I'm responsible for everything that happens to me now.
Yes.
And that is so fucking, it's an immense amount of pressure.
Yep.
And you don't feel that when you're in collegiate because, you know, you have other stuff going on. So the grass is greener. And it is different, but I work just as much as I did when I was in collegiate, even though I can, you know, walk my dog in the middle of the day and go to Portugal for my friend's birthday on a whim. You know what I mean? But I still put the same...
And what's harder is you have to be responsible for managing that too. Correct.
Because that's a tough... When I got out of collegiate, I was like, let's go to Europe and never come back. You know, like, I was literally... I had $9, you know? But I was like... I got my first, like, you know, paycheck from training and I was like, I'm out. Fuck you. Like, it's more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I was like, I'm out, you know? And you have to manage that, right?
Yes.
Like, I have to be like, okay, I did make good money this month. I cannot go to Dubai for a month. I can't do that. That's not going to be good for my business. And that's a conversation I have to have with myself. And it's like different constraints now. You know, I know that if I'm in town for, you know, a consecutive 4-week period and I'm not, you know, traveling for work and stuff, like, it's going to be good for me. And so I have to set those intentions and those periods because, like, I know I have shit to do. You know, and I think a lot of people make that mistake where they start like making some money online and then they like fly off the rails a little bit. And I'm like, nah, dude, I have like retained earnings for my business. I'm trying to build out a space. Like, I have shit going on that I need to pay for. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, it's managing that. And I think my background helps a little bit. Like, my background's in econ and finance and stats. And so like I have that piece of that, but it's just as tough, just in a different way. Choose your hard, right?
Yes, 100%.
You know? And my hard was not being yelled at all the time. You know, I yell at myself enough in my head.
100%,
you know?
same.
Much, too much.
I don't need you to pile on.
I'm the worst bully I know.
Exactly.
So
same. Yeah.
You're not going to say anything that I haven't said to myself.
I love it. All right. This segment is brought to you by Train Heroic. There's a link in the show notes. I use Train Heroic. Zach uses Train Heroic. They've been absolutely wonderful to us. And since we've started this sponsorship, we've had many coaches reach out to us. And I'm not going to name drop anyone yet because I want to make sure that they actually seal the deal. But I know of some coaches who are making that transition now, and I couldn't recommend it enough. All right. This segment is called Rant and Rave. So the rant. Something that you're seeing in performance or fitness or, you know, in our space in general that you don't love so much. You'd like to see less of it. And then rave, something that, you know, you love and you would like to see more of.
Okay. Sport-specific training isn't real. And I can't stand it. Stop waiting the end of an implement to replicate a golf swing. Stop, you know, throwing a medicine ball like a basketball. Like, it's just not real.
Yeah.
And that's not my job, right? That's not my job. And it's stupid and it looks stupid. Yeah. From somebody who, like, when you see that shit on Instagram, doesn't that just like automatically?
My favorite is when I have clients who, at times, professional athletes say, I would like to do this.
They send you this.
And I see it. And I have a client, I got to be careful here. I have a client who is going to be training with Joel Seidman. Did I train? This is someone I train. And I had a moment where I was like, what am I even doing? Well, have I done anything for this person? You know? And also, this is another revelation. I was like, he doesn't know that what I do is different from what he's doing. Ouch.
Yeah.
That happened this past week.
And that's when you realize, I mean, we kind of touched on it with like the nutrition stuff.
They don't know.
You realize that there's no,
people don't know.
They don't know.
But it happens. I'll have people be like, hey, why don't we do more stuff like this? And I'm like, my knee-jerk response is be like, because we're not dumb. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a moron. But I don't want to insult you you know.
I'd be insulting people. People send me stuff. People send me stuff, and I'm like, that is a fucking liability.
Yeah.
You think football's dangerous? Do that.
Right. Yeah.
Do that 12 times. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that drives me crazy because it's the stuff, and I'm sure you know the accounts that we see all the time, but it's like the stuff that gets the views on Instagram because people are like 3 deceleration drills for 400-meter sprinters.
Yes.
And I'm like, first off, one, you don't need to fucking decelerate, genius. Like the whole point is to kind of go faster. Second off, what the fuck am I looking at? 8 slides of some guy just going, I'm just, you know, exactly. So I'm like bored, you know, I'm bored of that. That's got to go. I think it's getting better. I think it's getting less traction.
It feels because I've been known to peruse a comment section of that. And most of the time now,
it's like, nobody's fucking doing it.
Yeah, it's like, exactly. It's like hilarious. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like shout out Instagram because like it has.
Yeah.
I feel like it's starting to come back around a little bit. There might be some hope.
Yeah.
But
and then rave.
Yes, thank you.
More people who are nationally accredited are working in the private sector, and I think that's fucking awesome.
It is awesome.
Right? Because I think there's
a lot of nonsense out here.
There's so much nonsense. And like, if you want to, I've always said this to my clients when they ask me about the importance of certifications and things like that. Mm-hmm. Why would you not want to work with somebody who has financially, time-wise, education-wise invested into themselves? If they want to do it that fucking badly, go out and get your CSCS, go out and get your SCCC, go out and get whatever, go out and get certifications that set you up as an authority in the space. I'm not saying that they're everything, but I love knowing, I love getting into a training environment and knowing somebody else has a CSCS because I'm like, oh, you fucking understand the human body on a level that like an online test that you studied for 2 weeks isn't going to give you, And then especially like coaches working with young athletes. When I click on your fucking profile, if you're training youth athletes and I click on your fucking profile and I do it all the time and it just says CPT, I'm like, grow the fuck up. I don't want to see it. You know what I mean? Like you have to get a better, you know what I mean? Like you have to more continuing ed, like, because those people aren't doing that stuff. They're not going to the conferences. They're not, having these types of conversations. They're sitting there and they're like, well, I know this and I know this and I have this folder of stuff saved to my Instagram and that's what I do with these kids.
100%.
And it's like, you can't keep paying people that don't understand what they're doing. So more certifications. I'm seeing it in private sector. And I love it because I think that's how we combat the idea that there's such a difference between the level of training in these two sectors. So
nice. Excellent callback there. That was very, very good.
I'm just so...
You're full of that.
You are well-rounded, articulate even.
If you weren't...
I'm just kidding.
If you weren't...
I've said fuck 100 times.
Effective though.
I'm making a point.
If you weren't a coach, what would you be and why?
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
If I wasn't a coach, I think I would do like sports broadcasting.
Oh, I could see that.
Because I love like being in the weeds. I have like such a weird ability to like remember things. You know what I mean? And I think it's weird because I'll just be like washing a dish and I'll be like, babe, didn't he used to play for the Packers? He's like, yeah, in like 2014.
You're describing me.
And he's like, yeah, in like 2014. I'm like, I thought he used to play. Okay. That checks out. No reason. Yeah. Like, I'll like hear the name and it'll be like, he's with like the fucking Raiders now. And I'm like, hey. He hasn't always been that,
Yeah, exactly,
like I'm adding something to the interaction. Yeah. So, but it seems fun to me and like I love the environment, right? So it makes sense. I think that's something that I would do.
I think you have the voice actually now.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You do.
I don't have the attitude though. The FCC would be all over me. They'd be like, Jessica Burke has to stop. She's not allowed.
What if you were like Pat McAfee?
My own subset.
You trailblaze that path for there isn't a women's,
and I provide no real information about the sport. I don't want to do that.
Kelly had an idea for?
I just want to talk about it.
She wanted to start a podcast with me, but it was only going to be sports gossip. Period. Just
tell her to call me. Because I
was like, listen, honey, I work with these people.
I'll make stuff up. I don't work with
eventually
these people.
Someone I work with is gonna come up.
I don't work with these people. I'll make stuff up.
Yeah.
I'll literally make stuff up.
Yeah.
I'll be like, did you see that Andre Drummond stole Kim Kardashian's dog?
Yeah.
Crazy.
He did that.
Don't sue me, Andre Drummond.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Cut that.
Overrated. This segment isn't brought to you by anybody yet. Overrated versus
by our sports gossip podcast, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Name is it's being
workshopping the name right now, but yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Overrated versus underrated. So any ideas, principles, philosophies that you see commonly held in high regard that you feel like are actually kind of overrated, and then vice versa, things that maybe are a bit underappreciated that should be illuminated.
Yeah. Overrated, and I'm going to go a little bit more like performance based here, a little bit more like in the realm of something that you would see in collegiate. Overrated right now for me is like load management. Not in the sense that it's bad.
Right.
But in the sense that there's so many physiological factors that we ignore when creating like a perfect load management strategy. And we create it with these imperfect pieces of data. And we haven't been doing it for long enough to know how well it's working for a lot of things, right? And I think not everybody does it effectively.
Yeah.
So when I say that, I don't mean load management as a bad thing, but I think we've gotten too into the data and too reliant on it when it comes to load management. And I know that, I felt like when I was at my last job, I was stuck kind of between a rock and a hard place because it's like, I have this data, and if I go against the data and something happens, then like,
you're
fuck me.
Yeah.
But like, also, we've been doing it for, and I'm not saying we don't like this is how we should do it and we always done it like this, but I'm saying like we went too far off the deep end.
Yeah, the pendulum swung too hard.
It swung too far the other way with, the data and stuff. So I loved that piece of my job and looking at it, but I think we just went too crazy too fast with it, and we didn't have enough consideration of like just all of the factors. I had people that were judging athlete readiness like completely off of a vertical jump, and it's just like we can't do that, because it's like that data is so imperfect. Half the athletes don't give a shit about the daily vertical jump anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we're putting too much emphasis. I literally had kids that were just like,
yeah.
And I'm like, well, you got 12% of your max.
Right.
So I would say maybe take a rest day. I don't know, because I have to say
according to
that.
I have kids,
according to this, you're injured. You're getting injured.
Yeah.
So
DEFCON 5. Yeah.
I think overrated in the sense that we've built up too much of a sensitivity to that data.
Yeah.
And like there's too much subjective data that goes into load management. So like if you have a shitty jump, but like you look great, I'm going to let you go. And if you get hurt, like that's the nature of the beast. We're playing a sport here. You know what I mean? And then also it just like, I've seen it have a negative impact on like athlete readiness for the season. Like we're not ready because we're too worried about undulating this progression of load up to 3,500 meters here. And it's just like, it's not going to be perfect. So we need to pump the brakes a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Do you? Okay.
Yes,
I thought maybe you were like skeptical.
No,
of
well,
that.
when you first
I was like, I hate load management. I think everyone should die every day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, load management, it doesn't exist ever.
More ACLs.
But to your point about the data, like I find myself agreeing with you unequivocally there, where it's like I've seen data hijack common sense a lot.
Yeah.
Underrated.
Training Gen Pop with the same philosophies that you use to train athletes.
Preach.
Underrated. My workouts look the same for athletes and for general population, in that my general template, the way I'm constructing them, is very similar. Obviously, there are differences, right?
Right.
Susan's not doing, I said she was doing astronaut jumps. She's not.
She's not. Yeah.
I just want to make her sound like she's just like she's been having a tough go.
Yeah. Susan.
The divorce with Brad really had her through her for a loop. I really
But we shaved 3/10 off of her 20-yard fly
her
time.
Force plate data. Amazing. No, but I think, people, it's so underrated because when we're training for function, for strength, for health, for longevity, like that's what we're training for when we train an athlete. Like the same principles carry over.
Yeah.
So like I'm not doing funky back of biceps. Like I'm not doing that with my client because they don't need to do that because they don't want to look like a bodybuilder. They want to feel good. They want to look good. Athletes feel good and look good. I don't know if you guys have seen athletes before, but usually they're pretty fucking stacked.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what?
Yep.
Where's the disconnect? So I think it's underrated. I think we're still doing too much like bodybuilding crap and stuff that just makes us feel like shit and not taking the principles from how to effectively train a human and using them to effectively train humans.
Yeah.
So.
Amazing. Okay. Last segment. This segment is brought to you by Eleiko. Still can't believe that they sponsor us because they're Eleiko. We love Eleiko, and they actually just came by my gym and gifted me a performance bar. Just saying. Which reminds me, I think we're going to be doing a giveaway here soon. I think we're going to be doing an Eleiko bar giveaway soon. And I think that means we're doing that. So stay tuned. This one is called Solicited Advice, brought to you by Eleiko. Your flight's tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're at everyone's favorite part of the airport experience. You're in TSA, and it's bad. The line's backed up. Okay. You're going to be there a while.
Got it.
There's someone directly behind you, and
I'm sorry. This is a segment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Okay. I just wanted to know.
It's also not only is it a segment. It's an experience.
Okay, I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
So you're painting a picture wonderfully.
You can, and everyone's close. You can smell the coffee on the breath. You got a glimpse into the eyes earlier. It was like maybe like a rough trip, for this person.
Yeah. Boys trip, boys weekend.
Yeah. Big boys weekend in Austin. Weekend. Yeah. However, you feel the urge, the desire, the need to offer this person some advice, and it can be anything. It can be about training. It can be about life. Some piece of advice that's important to you that you think will make an impact on this person's life.
I get the onus of the question. I'm wondering why I'm giving it to drunk Brad after his divorce celebration from Susan. Why is it?
Susan's heartbroken.
Why is it boys weekend?
Or maybe
Brad?
Susan's not heartbroken.
Susan, I'm going to let you know a little secret. She doesn't give a shit. She made out like a bandit in court. She's fine.
She's good. Susan's fine.
Susan's fine. So I like the onus of the question. So just kind of like, what is it can be truly anything. It's really more for the listeners. Yeah.
What is something in your parting advice? What would it be?
It is your responsibility to create a reality that you align with and that you want to be a part of. And it's your sole it's just you, right? Everything that exists now, and I know this sounds woo-woo, has been created by somebody, right? Everybody's life that they live right now, they've been responsible for creating. Some people have more privilege than others. Some people have more opportunities than others. But I spent so much time kind of feeling bad for myself and not liking where I was at and not taking responsibility for the fact that this is all built by me, And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can kind of dig yourself out of that hole. So I would just say, you're responsible for that. And if you hate it and you're okay with hating it, sit in it, right? But if you hate it, the only person that has the ability to do something about it is you. So create a reality that you want to be a part of and that you're proud of.
That is really fucking good advice.
Drunk Brad's going to really think about that one.
His mind's about to get rocked, dude.
True.
You might have just ruined his trip.
Brad, is this really how you want to fucking live?
Yeah, Brad, listen. I got good news.
You proud of this, Brad?
And bad news for you, Brad. Bad news. It's all your fault. Good news.
You're the CEO.
Absolutely. Jessica, where can people find you, connect with you, and get to know you?
Yeah, so I primarily reside on Instagram, so Coach J Burke, Burke. I'm also on TikTok, just like not as much. it's for the kids. I haven't really figured it out, It's
I spend a lot of time on TikTok.
I scroll. I'm in the weeds. Love it. And then also I have the Strength Chick podcast. That's where I kind of like talk about a lot of really accessible fitness information and a lot of the stuff that you see on my feed and stuff that I kind of get a little educational about, but keep more lighthearted. That's where I kind of dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, come hang out with me on Instagram because apparently the comment sections are a good time.
It is.
So, but yeah.
Jessica, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for
everyone who's made it this far. We appreciate you listening and watching. Also, God love you. No, honestly, this was a ton of fun. I really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, no, this was great.
And till next time.
Till next time.
Later, y'all.